Hi, and welcome to another How to Country. Today we're going to be talking about seeds. That's why we have some seeds in front of us here, and we also have a couple references on the board, some terms that maybe people have heard, but they don't quite understand. So I'd like to start with a quote. This is from Ecclesiastes 3, verse 2. It says, "A time to plant and a time to pluck up that which is planted." And today we're going to be talking about planting and what to plant and how to know what the right seeds are to use. I also have one other reference that I'm going to read. It says, and actually part of it is on the board, "The special needs of every variety of plant must be studied. Different varieties require different soil and cultivation, and compliance with the laws governing each is the condition of success. The attention required in transplanting that not even a root fiber should be crowded or misplaced. The care of young plants, the pruning and watering, the shielding from frost at night and sun by day, keeping out weeds, disease, and insect pests. The training and arranging not only teach important lessons concerning the development of character, but the work itself is a means of development. In cultivating carefulness, patience, attention to detail, obedience to law, it imparts a most essential training. The constant contact with the mystery of life and the loveliness of nature, as well as the tenderness called forth in ministering to these beautiful objects of God's creation, tend to quicken the mind and refine and elevate the character." So today we're going to be talking about the special needs or the special types and varieties of seeds that you can get for your garden. So let's talk about these main terms that are on the board. So we have GMO, hybrid, and open-pollinated are the three main terms that we're going to understand and discuss. So GMO, or GM, genetically modified organism, is a plant that has actually been constructed in the laboratory. Genes have been removed or added from other plants or even animals to generate certain characteristics in the plant. And those are not always healthy for us to take into our body. But the good thing is that we actually can't even buy this seed. So even if you wanted to, you would have to get a contract, you'd have to be a big commercial grower and get a contract for the seed. So if you go into any garden store or online and you're just buying garden seeds, you won't actually be able to even purchase GMO seeds. So that's not something you actually have to worry about, which is great. The other two, hybrid and open-pollinated, are two kinds of seeds that you can purchase easily. What is the difference between these two? So a hybrid is a seed that has been bred by crossing different varieties of seed naturally. And what it causes is good traits to be developed in that plant. The only downside to this is that when you try and save the seed from that plant to replant it, let's say you had a bean like this. So in here we have some pinto beans, and these, fortunately, are self-pollinating. So they don't cross with anything. When you plant these and you save the seed, you're going to get the same seed again. If we had planted a hybrid variety, let's say like corn. Corn is very commonly a hybrid because it develops the most flavors. So they'll take a sweet with a super sweet or a bicolor, breed it together, and then you get a hybrid that has really good flavor, sweet, juicy corn. When you take that corn and you try and save the seed and you go to plant it, you're going to see that every single seed comes with a totally different plant than you had before because it had different parents from that plant. just like people. You can have 10 kids and they all look different, they all have different temperaments. It's the same with the seeds. 2 different parents that were crossed together, and all the offspring are going to be different. So the first time you plant that seed, you will get that variety that was bred. But past that, it's going to give you not true seeds. So when you plant a hybrid, either it won't germinate or it won't produce true seed year after year, which causes a problem if you want to save your seed from year after year, especially when right now seeds are getting sometimes harder to get, especially specific seeds. You want seeds that you can keep yourself. Open pollinated. This is super important because you can keep your seed year after year from these seeds, and they will produce true seeds as long as you don't cross them accidentally with other seeds. So with corn is very easily cross-pollinated because it's wind-pollinated. So all the little hairs and the silks in the corn cob, that actually each one of those gets pollinated and creates a single kernel on the corn cob. So the wind blows, and if you have multiple varieties in your garden or your field, the wind will go, the pollen will cross, and you will start to get different varieties of corn, and sometimes ones that definitely do not taste good. So the best is to grow one variety or have a distance big enough or trees in between or something to block that from crossing, or you won't be able to get true seed year after year. Things like the beans are self-pollinating and are almost impossible to cross. So if you plant a row of pinto beans and right next to it you have a row of kidney beans, you're not going to have an issue with those crossing. You'll be able to save the seed and it's not going to be a problem. Many things are like that, but you need to understand which plants cross and which ones don't. Now, something that a lot of people are talking about now is heirloom seed. What does that mean? An heirloom seed just means it's an old variety, something that has been cultivated for a long time. It's tried, it's true. A lot of the heirloom tomatoes are very popular, and they're actually under the category of open pollinated. So all heirlooms are actually open pollinated. So when you're going to buy seed that you want to save year after year, get an open pollinated seed, or an heirloom by default is open pollinated, so you know you can save the seed if it says heirloom on there as well. But that's where it comes into knowing your seeds and understanding the special needs of each of those kinds of seeds. A great resource that Amazing Discoveries is actually getting to hold soon, and you'll be able to get from us, is a book called Seed to Seed. It is one of the best resources for saving seed, which we'll talk about more in detail in another video. Later in the year, when we're going to harvest things, we can show you how to actually save different kinds of seed. So when you're buying seed and you pick up a package at the store, how do you know if it's a hybrid, if it's open pollinated or an heirloom? Well, on the package, and this isn't always the case, but on certain packages it'll say open pollinated, non-GMO, non-hybrid. So this seed, you know that when you save it, you'll be able to keep that seed year after year. So that's super important. And if it doesn't say, you can just go online, look up that variety, and it'll very quickly tell you whether that's an open pollinated, an heirloom, or a hybrid seed. Another thing to keep in mind is what seeds for your area. So depending where you are, on the back of the package, not all packages say, so that's where you might need to go look up the variety. It'll have days to maturity time. So this says matures in 55 days. So that's a good time frame because being up here where Amazing Discoveries is, we're in northern BC, and we don't have a long growing season like some of the places in the southern states or even in southern BC. So 55 days is great because I can plant the seed and I know by the end of the season I'll be able to harvest this with no issue. Other seeds, maybe some type of cabbage seed or maybe a broccoli or maybe a hot pepper where it could be 100 days, could be 90 days. Some things go up to 150 days. So obviously I won't be able to plant that seed in the ground, and by the time I need to harvest before winter comes, it's not going to be ready. So then you know that seed you need to start early indoors. You can either do that in a greenhouse, which we have done a video which we'll be sharing with you guys, and you can look that up on greenhouses, or you can just start that in your house, in a tray, in your window. It can be as simple or complicated as you would like it to be. So these are some very key things that you want to understand about your seeds when you're getting your seeds, because each variety takes different care. So the special needs you need to understand. When you talk about the corn, you need to understand that it is wind-pollinated. You need a lot of space for this. With this cabbage seed, which is what this is here, this is a cabbage seed, and I probably have several thousand seeds here, maybe 3,000 seeds in this little bowl. And with these, certain varieties are very low days. Maybe they're only 65 days, and I can plant them straight if I have good enough heat during the summer, and then can harvest just straight from the garden. But most times in this climate, cabbage takes a little bit too long. You want to start it early indoors. Something like this, which is a carrot seed. So carrot seed, you can plant straight in the garden and you'll have no issue. You plant straight and you harvest. This seed over here we have is a dwarf variety of a scarlet runner bean, and it's called dwarf bees. So you also want to know, what kind of space do I have? Do I have a trellis for big runner beans because they can get 8-10 feet long? Or do I want a bush variety of the same thing? You can get many things that are a sprawly or a large runner plant in a compact variety if you don't have so much space. And when you're storing your seeds, you can store it in so many different ways. You can store it in paper. You can store it in just a little plastic container like this with a tight lid on it. You can keep it in, I have a plastic tub here that has some pinto beans in it. And then paper, obviously, is very classic for seeds that you buy in the store. As long as you keep them dry and cool. You don't want to get them too hot, and you don't want to get them moist because they will start to lose their germination. You can sometimes even keep them in the freezer if you want to keep them long as they're dry. If they're wet, that can actually harm the seed. So you want to make sure it's perfectly dry before you do that. But as long as you keep them in the right conditions, cool and dry, they will last years. A lot of the expiry on some of the seed packages will say a year or 3 years, but lots of seed can last 10 years. I have seed that I've kept for 10 years, and it's totally fine to use. So there's some very basic concepts, some important concepts for you to keep in mind when you're going to plant your garden this year. We hope you enjoyed this video, and we will see you next time. If you'd like to learn more about country living, like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell so you don't miss a video.